Next, I would ask my colleague, Councilmember Elizabeth Glidden, to join me, and we have a resolution honoring the Minneapolis Spokesman-Recorder newspaper.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Glidden, and I am the Vice President of the Minneapolis City Council, and I'm very honored today to present a resolution thanking and honoring one of our most important businesses, most long-serving businesses in the 8th Ward, but also in the state of Minnesota. The Minnesota Spokesman-Recorder has its physical presence in what used to be the heart of the black business community in South Minneapolis. It is at the corner of 38th Street and 4th Avenue. It is a building that right now we are exploring historic designation for because of its significance both to the city of Minneapolis and the state of Minnesota, and frankly to our nation as well. The Minnesota Spokesman-Recorder began as 2 newspapers, and it was actually first called the Minneapolis Spokesman and then the St. Paul Recorder. And the resolution I'm about to read will give a little bit of this history. I'm joined today by James Stroud, who is junior. I've been told I've got to remember that part, so there's no confusion. But he is here on behalf of the Spokesman. He's had a relationship with the Spokesman since 1986 as a journalist and photographer, and he's here on behalf of the CEO and President Tracy Williams Dillard, who was unable to attend in person. And I just want to say a couple words about the Spokesman as a local business. They are such an involved community presence, and I think that's unique, especially with a newspaper that has such a long and storied reach in the community. As an example, they support other local businesses. Tracy's grandchildren go to daycare at Sunshine Daycare, which is another black-owned business in the neighborhood. And they also have just done a wonderful job over the years, and I think you'll understand with the resolution too, this is historically what they have done of promoting talent. And one of my first experiences with the Spokesman-Recorder was being interviewed as a candidate for office by then reporter Shannon Gibney, who today is an award-receiving author, just published her first full-length novel, young adult novel, and is a MacArthur Award winner. So I'm going to now read this resolution honoring the Minnesota Spokesman-Recorder on its 80th anniversary. Whereas Cecil E. Newman was quoted as saying, "I didn't have enough money to begin one newspaper, so I began publishing 2, which is an example of his perseverance and uncompromising integrity that continued even after his passing in 1976. And whereas the Minnesota Spokesman-Recorder has remained an African-American family-owned business throughout its history, with Cecil Newman's wife, Lana Newman, following him as the next Minnesota Spokesman-Recorder publisher for the next 32 years, beginning in 1976, before handing over the family heirloom in 2008 to Tracy Williams Dillard, the current publisher and the Newman's granddaughter. And whereas the Minnesota Spokesman-Recorder has been a long-standing community pillar and the voice of the Minnesota African American community since its inception in 1934, and still remains a journalistic force after 80 years of publishing. And whereas the Minnesota Spokesman-Recorder was originally known as a communications vehicle designed to unite, educate, inspire, and empower the Twin Cities community in general and the African American community in particular, today reaching the entire state of Minnesota through print and beyond through the internet. And whereas the Minnesota Spokesman-Recorder has been a springboard for African American talent and continues to nurture and support talented writers and photographers today, helping to launch the career of internationally renowned photographer and writer Gordon Parks, and that of Carl T. Rowan, one of the most honored reporters in the United States, as well as a government official in President Johnson's administration. And whereas the Minnesota Spokesman-Recorder gained notoriety and influence as a media institution as a result of Cecil E. Newman's commitment to civil and human rights, including his bipartisan advocacy of civil rights laws at the United States Congress. And whereas Cecil Newman's work as an advisor to Senators Hubert H. Humphrey and Clifford P. Case, who was a Republican from New Jersey, helped lead to the passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and his work in 1967 with then Senator Walter Mondale led to the successful enactment of the 1968 Housing Act. And whereas the Minnesota Spokesman-Recorder is currently the oldest African-American business in Minnesota and one of the oldest African-American newspapers in the United States, now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Minneapolis does hereby declare the first day of August 2015 to be Minnesota Spokesman-Recorder Day in the City of Minneapolis in honor of its 80 years of outstanding contributions to the City of Minneapolis, the State of Minnesota, and United States of America. Thank you. Congratulations. Now hold that if you want to. If you'd like to make a comment.
Oh, yes. On behalf of Tracy Williams Dillard, the president, CEO, and current publisher, and all of the staff and freelance writers and photographers, we send a thank you especially to your office and to the City Council and all those who made this possible. Thank you, and continue to support the Spokesman-Recorder, and long live the MSR.
Thank you.